Solvent abuse can kill instantly. This is Tabloid Tuesday with Chris Wilkinson. We've got the Nottingham Post in front of us, and the headline story is "Pair jailed thanks to bravery of the girls they abused." A senior police officer who led an investigation into sexual exploitation of teenage girls has praised the victims' bravery in what he described as harrowing and life-changing experiences. The case was painstakingly pieced together by a team of detectives over many, many months to bring justice to the perpetrators of the offences. After the trial, Waqas Akhtar, 26, of Glentworth Road, Bobbers Mill, was found guilty of sexual activity with a girl under 16. Offender 18 or over, sexual activity with a girl under 16, offender 18 or over, 2 counts of engaging in sexual communication with a child, and meeting a girl who was under 16 years of age following grooming. Yesterday, he was jailed for a total of 7.5 years, given a sexual harm prevention order, and must sign the sex offenders register indefinitely. He will be barred from working with children. Judge John Burgess told him he was convicted of 5 offences against a 14-year-old girl. He said, "You took advantage of your vulnerability to satisfy your own lust." And Mohammed Saeed Ahmed, 22, of Vale Crescent South, Nottingham, pleaded guilty to 4 charges before the trial started. 2 counts of sexual activity with a child, 1 of causing or inciting a child to engage in sexual activity, and another of sexual communications with a child. The sexual activity with a child concerned a 15-year-old girl. The other 3 charges related to a girl who was 14. Chris Wilkinson, welcome to the show again. Paedophiles, what's going on?
Right, this Rebecca Sherdley, who is the author of this particular piece, did really seem there to want to hammer home the fact that sexual activity took place. They've used the word sex a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Perhaps a little bit more than what I would consider comfortable.
Yeah,
or
sensible,
normal.
sensible for a regional headline news story.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, obviously it's a disgusting story. This whack-ass actor or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't look like the most friendliest of people.
No, but to be fair, he has just been convicted of, was it 5 or 7 counts of sexual indecency with a child? So I wouldn't be smiling either.
Yeah. But the other one, Mohammed Ahmed, here looks sort of almost defiant. I don't know what you would think there.
Can you look into their eyes and see any ounce of remorse?
No, not really. No. I mean, this story, in the context of the entire paper, this is very much a pro-police story, and there's another one that's coming up later on.
Yeah, there is.
And there's also a small segment on Australian politicians, which is very much anti-paedophiles. So this paper seems to take the view of pro-police, anti-paedophile.
Which is, with that particular diametric, that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
But there are some other stories.
There's a bit too much of an emphasis on these particular issues, I think.
Do you think somebody who's been convicted on 7 different offences against underage children should receive 7.5 years in prison?
Probably not, actually.
And they won't probably obviously serve all of that.
Well, I mean, let's take a personal example.
Yeah.
One of the former school teachers who actually taught me mathematics.
Yeah.
At Netherstowe in Lichfield, he was found guilty of very much a similar thing of touching underage girls sexually.
Yeah.
And I think there was about seven cases of that again. He got 2 years in prison.
Yeah, how does that help reform them? Are they even in prison long enough to reform or feel
No, but
regretful
it doesn't.
for what they did?
I mean, surely you've got to be in prison long enough to really regret what you've done, and also to ensure that rehabilitation is actually effective.
Yeah, because I disagree with rehabilitation being an important thing in prison. It should be punishment as well. But even if you were to go down the route of saying it's about rehabilitation, how could that have successfully been achieved in 2 years?
Yeah, you can't do that in 2 years. I mean, they're not there long enough to really alter their minds on this.
And how frequent are the rehabilitation classes? Maybe once a week?
Possibly, yeah.
So
and then they're going to get out on good behaviour anyway, which means their sentence is cut in half.
So it's
a terrible mockery of the justice system when it comes to paedophiles.
Is in fact the British justice system's attitude towards paedophiles in terms of sentencing actually more of an offence towards the safeguarding of children than the actual paedophiles? If you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. This is a bit of a downbeat start to the episode.
Even though it's a really nice sunny day.
Yeah.
And the roadmap apparently is suggesting that we're on our way to freedom, even though it won't be freedom, because if the state grants freedom, it's not real freedom, is it?
And I don't particularly want to go to a tennis or basketball court today.
No, I'm both quite boring. Women's tennis is quite good, but not when Serena Williams has a paddy about something. Because the rules are wrong. So this story, this is good because I obviously am involved in this story somewhat. Police stopped group intent on trouble at peaceful event. Police stopped a group of 20 men. I actually saw this happen as well.
Yeah.
Police stopped a group of 20 men intent on causing trouble from attending the Kill the Bill protest, which passed off peacefully at the Forest Recreation Ground in Nottingham. A number of groups came together on Saturday to protest against a controversial proposal that would give police and the Home Secretary increased powers to stop protest. Hundreds of people turned up in what has been described as a peaceful protest compared to the scenes at Bristol, which saw a police station trashed and officers seriously hurt. And this is not in the article, but police vans were set on fire with policemen in them. So activists who gathered at Nottingham's Kill the Bill demonstration said they were fighting against a complete attack on democracy. Superintendent Paul Winter of Nottinghamshire Police said, "We appreciate that the organisers of this weekend's event managed to keep the protest both peaceful and largely in line with coronavirus regulations. I saw them being arrested. They put 2 police vans in front of a tram which had a load of people on it who were obviously there and causing trouble. It was hard to say what political persuasion they were, or what they were there to do. They didn't have any signs with them that might have given that away. Again, I was actually on the scene more than Nottinghamshire Live was and Nottinghamshire Post was, because I actually saw the actual arrests go down. But so I was there. It was pretty quiet, but at one point my friend George, who you're going to be meeting later today, turned up with alcohol in his hand, drinking, raised his beer in the air and took his shirt off and went, "Look at me, I'm dead left wing!" And everyone looked at us. You could just sense the scathing eyes, and we almost all had our heads kicked in. The situation was diffused. I just walked off because it just wasn't worth getting involved in. But yeah, anyway, so the whole thing really, not just this particular story, but the whole.
Well, the one thing that strikes me as being particularly nasty in that is how they've equated protests with an attack on democracy. Considering the relatively peaceful nature of this one, to say that we really shouldn't have a right to protest because it's against democracy. Surely a protest is very democratic.
Yes.
It is the very essence of democracy.
Yes, it's direct representation of a group of people.
Or of an issue,
vocalising it. And apparently that's
So that's just quite astounding. COVID-19, I don't really want to talk about it because it's not really, an issue that we want to cover on this show. But it's just been used as the scapegoat for so much in the way of authoritarian behaviours and things like that.
And I've seen people that told me that I was a tinfoil hat wearer when I started worrying about the threat of civil liberties immediately last March when all this first happened. That I've started to see them sort of to pedal back on that, because I've got a friend who's very much part of the left wing sort of pro-Guardian approach to all of this, and has now realised that it's been used as a complete excuse to permanently erode our civil liberties, and has started to come around to agree on the fact that it's not real freedom if the state grants it to us. It's state permitted freedom then, and it's not quite the same relationship we had with the state before. She's only just now come to realise it.
It's the same difference between natural rights and human rights.
And also when I think the moment it sort of the penny dropped, which it did for a lot of left-wing groups, was the moment they saw those pictures in Clapham Common with Sarah Everard vigil attendees being slammed to the ground, a woman desperately looking for a pair of glasses and just being kicked and thrown over. I mean, harrowing, really.
Yeah.
So, another grim story. This one's hopefully going to be a little bit better. Kind-hearted family let homeless couple live in their garden shed. A family let a homeless couple live in their garden shed after the pair struggled to find work during the coronavirus pandemic. Macaulay Johnson and his partner Shannon Cullen, both 21, had to leave their Bestwood Village home when they could no longer afford to pay their rent. Mr. Johnson, who is autistic and had been which Mr. Johnson know about? Oh, not Boris. No, Mr. Johnson, who is autistic and had been working in a factory, moved them both into a local hotel, but they struggled to pay the bill. Miss Cullen, who used to work in a call centre, had moved to Nottingham from Ireland to be closer to Macaulay after they met playing the video game Grand Theft Auto. There's a bee. It's gone.
There's also another B and a C.
What do you mean? BBC?
Yeah.
I was on about there was an actual bumblebee going around my head. The pair have lived together for a year at their Bestwood home before the pandemic hit, with a trolley full of clothes and even their PlayStation, so they could have sold that to pay the bills. They set up a tent in different spots of Gedling Borough, hoping the local authority would offer them support. One night, the couple were terrified to find someone slashing their tent in an attempt to get inside and steal their valuables.
Haven't exactly got their priorities right there, have they?
Little did they know that Ian and Lisa Marshall, both 43 and Bull, were about to offer them the most generous gift they could have asked for.
A shed.
A shed. Heartbroken by what they saw, the pair offered them a roof over their heads in a shed at the bottom of the garden while they sorted themselves out. So
they've been treated like garden gnomes.
Garden gnomes. Didn't you say something
and
about
potting plants?
Potting plants. It's a hooded potting plant. He's in a grey hoodie.
Yeah, actually, let's look at that photo.
Yeah. Do you want me to turn it around?
Yeah. So it's basically the two of them sat in the shed on what looks like a makeshift blow-up bed or something like that.
Yeah. You can see the bed exposed there. Yeah.
Why is she wearing a mask when she's sitting
next to her boyfriend.
Literally right next to her boyfriend there?
That is weird. Is that an identity thing, or is she up to something?
Well,
It doesn't make any sense.
The blow-up bed is also in the colours of the EU.
Yeah. So, one of your pointless observations again that has no rendering on the story.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all just identity stuff.
It's just a blue bed with a yellow nozzle thing on it.
Yeah,
blow it up.
But I'm pretty sure that there was a similar story like this around spring of last year.
Yeah.
That was very much like, you can stay in the caravan or something like that I've got out the front. The caravan's a hell of a lot more hospitable, than a shed.
Water and things.
With wooden splintered panels on it.
So when you said it was illegal, did you mean it was illegal did you mean illegal under coronavirus
It was illegal under the Coronavirus Act or some sort of regulation, yeah. And people were arrested for it. So why now is this suddenly a great benevolent act of kindness that is going unnoticed by the law?
Yeah, it's the law during the last year has been so arbitrarily drawn.
Yeah.
And applied.
I mean, I suppose the one loophole that there is about this is that he has no fixed address, therefore it cannot be the mixing of households.
Oh, maybe that's the loophole.
Yeah. But is a caravan considered a household?
I believe so, because when I filled in the census, there was a question about when you answer in the name of a property, caravan was under the list of properties that you could legally own and reside in. When it wanted to know,
but it wouldn't have a postcode, would it?
No, I don't believe so, but I'm not sure about that. But I don't know if some are and some aren't, if they've got an actual post box, because obviously on a caravan site they perhaps don't. But maybe if it's on private land, maybe it does.
It's Chris's conundrum.
It's Chris's conundrum, but yeah, maybe if it's a caravan on private land, it technically has the postcode of the address of the wherever the private land is. So maybe that could be the thing. I don't know. There's going to be less of those anyway, because that policing bill is going to...
We'll have to find out, yeah.
Apparently it's going to stop Irish travellers, apparently. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
So, we'll move on to the next story.
But to be honest, I mean, they're safe from not getting the vaccine made compulsory or anything like that, so... The last remaining group of people that is free in this country...
Are the Irish travellers?
Yeah, are the Irish travellers who are now getting swarmed by the government.
It's an amazing turn of events. Okay, so the next story is... what is the next story? We didn't do anything.
I don't think there's anything there.
So, sad day for chocolate lovers as Thornton's empties its shelves. Shelves are being cleared inside a Nottinghamshire branch of high street giant Thornton's just weeks after the chocolatier closed 61 stores. The branch inside Mansfield's Four Seasons shopping centre was being... I didn't realise there was any shops left open in there. Was being emptied yesterday with shelves clear of stock. It comes 2 weeks after the company revealed it is closing its stores nationwide. There's Debenhams in there as well, and that's going to be shut in, so it's going to be pretty empty in there with the two big stores in there. Along with, I think there was a Boots as well. So, yeah. It comes 2 weeks after the company revealed it is closing its stores nationwide, putting more than 600 jobs at risk. Chris, another miserable story.
Yeah, it's all depressing. I mean, for all of these people on the news that you see cheering and clapping the fact that we're getting our freedoms back, the reality of what's going on in the world of the economy is quite converse to their views. This
might be an important point to mention that you came to Nottingham, was it 3 months ago, around then?
About 3 months ago.
And obviously to get to this, to where we do the interview, you have to go through the whole of town
Yeah.
Can you contrast
Yeah.
what you saw both times?
There are a hell of a lot of shops that have closed.
But properly boarded up now as well, not just
properly
closed and
boarded.
temporarily closed. You mean
Yeah.
fully?
There is a building site where the old Broadmarsh car park used to be, which is now sort of an office,
Yeah.
shiny office block, which, of course, in these circumstances, no one is going to occupy.
Apparently it's going to be a new giant public library, even though nobody goes into the quite large one we already have, just because it doesn't look very pretty.
Yeah. Broadmarsh is in bits
Yep.
because it's been redeveloped.
It's in the midst of redevelopment, which it has been for 5 years.
Yeah,
Maybe
for as long
more.
as I was here at
Yeah,
university,
yeah,
it's been redeveloped.
Yeah, it's still the same way. But it's all right because the council's taken it into public ownership now, so that's magically going to change it and make it all better.
Even though Nottingham's one of the worst and most corrupt councils in the entire country.
Yeah, haven't they got the actual government running Liverpool Council now?
They have, yeah.
Because it was revealed to be so corrupt.
But funnily enough, and I raised this question with relevant people,
Yeah,
they take Liverpool Council into public hands, but they didn't take Croydon Council, into public hands, despite the fact that Croydon has gone bankrupt with debts of over £1 billion.
Jesus Christ. Well,
even Liverpool's not that bad.
so
But back to the Thorntons story. It's a sad day, really, again, because it's another well-known high street store.
a British one as well.
Yeah.
I believe Thorntons is a British company.
That's closing its doors. I mean, at least it's not Cadbury's or anything like that. Which
It's a bit too big to fail, aren't they, really?
Yeah, well, I mean, the government helped them out in that respect, didn't they? Because they stitched up a deal with Kraft Foods.
But that being said, Cadbury it's actually
10
the
years,
proper name is Cadbury Schweppes, and I think Schweppes has been selling well with the astronomical rise in home drinking and alcohol related issues due to lockdown. So Schweppes would have been doing all right because of the gin and tonic and vodka and lemonade from. So maybe that's what's helped Cadbury's as well.
Here's an idea: Freddo Mojitos.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's a good way of keeping that. It's actually good to have two completely contrasting businesses in a merger to top the other one up in the case of the pandemic. Not something that I imagine they did the merger for, but that's where they are. So, safety fears over school entrance site, and we're picking up on this not because it's an interesting story, but because there's a grammatical error. So,
which has been a common feature of many of the papers that we've done recently.
Yeah. We say recently. These are
over the past few months. Yeah.
Because they've been spread out because of lockdown regulations. So, plans for a new main entrance to a secondary school look set to be approved despite a number of objections. The Colton Le Willows School in Gedling Village has submitted plans for a multi-million-pound expansion to accommodate 360 extra pupils. And these have been recommended for approval by Gedling Borough Council. No grammatical error yet. But here we go. With the application is proposed new vehicle entrance and zebra crossing in Burton Road, where concerns were raised last year by residents on nearby Burmese Drive. What does that sentence mean? Within the application is proposed new vehicle entrance. It's like talking this caveman talk.
Yeah.
It's just pretty poor.
Well, it must be said, surely Nottingham Post's resources are greater than that of some of the more obscure papers that we've covered.
Yeah, the office is near you've drank at the Navigation Inn with me before.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
And there's that huge building on the corner. That's the Nottingham Post building. It's quite a large office.
And the fact is, earlier on today, in coming here, I was stopped by representatives of the Nottingham Post who were outside the boots at Broadmarsh.
Yeah.
And I was stopped.
Which has also been closed.
Yeah, which has been closed. I was stopped and photographed, and I will be appearing in the Nottingham Post.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
We're going to be doing an update on that.
Yeah.
Tomorrow when it comes through.
But, they seem fairly normal, They reported it in the right way, or at least I hope they did.
Yeah.
They didn't strike me as people who were incompetent or unprofessional. They seemed as though they could string together a sentence.
Yeah, I mean, I saw them at the Kill the Bill protest. They seemed like proper cameras and everything. Seem to know what they're doing.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a shock to have all of these mistakes in what should be, but isn't, a reputable newspaper.
Residents' health and safety was put at risk in care home. Residents were not always safe living at a Nottinghamshire care home, which has since closed, health inspectors have said. So the grammatical error coming up. The Grange Nursing Home in Attenborough was a residential care home providing accommodation and personal nursing care in one adapted building care.
Yeah.
So I imagine care is actually meant to be area there, and autocorrect
or even carrier.
Carrier. Yeah, right.
A caring area.
Oh, right, okay.
That's a portmanteau, by the way.
What?
A portmanteau.
What does that mean?
It means a fusion of two words.
Oh, right, yeah. Or puns are puns portmanteaus?
No.
What's the difference between a pun and a portmanteau then?
A pun is a play on words. A portmanteau is
two words
fused together. Although I suppose that could be.
Some puns are fused words.
Yeah, that could
especially
be
when it's like a footballer and an action or something like that. You see them on sports headlines.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. But those are usually hyphenated.
Yes, yeah, that's the difference.
And
but you wouldn't hyphenate this Portman, which sounds like a holiday resort in Portugal or Spain or somewhere. So, anyway, owners of the home in not Elm Street Avenue, that's me thinking about the film, just Elm Avenue. That would be even more grim that the care home was on Elm Street, wouldn't it? Informed the authorities that their intention to close the site to quality and commercial reasons, and residents were moved to alternative accommodation in February. So, Chris, old people, cold, alone, living in filth in Nottingham in 2021.
That's pretty much par for the course, isn't it, Randy?
Yeah.
So there's nothing particularly outstanding about this shoddy, appalling treatment of elderly people.
I can't remember if it was quite a few years ago, but I think I read a bit of information that Nottingham was in terms of the ratio of population to employment was one of the lowest in the country.
Might as well with the world though, mate.
And I think average earnings for a population in a city that's over a certain limit, it was the lowest average earnings in the country. But I think I might have gone to Stockport now. So
well, that's equally a shithole, to be honest.
I went into the train station one Sunday, and it just looks pretty grim. It was a very misty, cold day, so it didn't exactly make it look better.
I've seen a picture of Stockport, and there's nothing more depressing than a filthy haze over.
There's not even any mass production there anymore, so there's no reason for there to be a haze over the city. It's not like it's industrial anymore.
Yeah, but it just strikes you as being just pure filth.
What is the ugliest city in the UK?
Oh, blimey.
Mine is Coventry.
Oh, yeah, Coventry's, yeah.
Pretty bad. Is there any more that would rival it?
Ooh.
Some angle. I've not been to Manchester. I've been through it on the train. And
no, Manchester's fairly fine.
Yeah, and there's a lot of beautiful industrial buildings, Victorian buildings there. But some of the new builds don't look good with it.
It's nice. It's nice when it's sort of been refitted and sort of restructured to be, atmospheric and things like that, as opposed to just terrible.
New inspector's passion in serving the community, from catching drug dealers that plague the Meadows and Wilford to clamping down on dangerous illegal bikes in Clifton. A new neighbourhood police inspector for City South, Cole Thomas, is ready to get his teeth into the problems blighting the areas he now covers. Inspector Thomas has been a police officer for nearly 19 years, with his most recent role catching robbers as a detective sergeant from the police's dedicated robbery team. Now he takes over from neighbourhood inspector James Walker to cover Clifton, Mapley, the Meadows, Sneinton and St Anne's. He said, "I grew up in the inner city part of Nottingham and spent the first part of my life embarrassed about the location of my upbringing and my lacklustre approach to education. I left school with minimal qualifications." Chris, the police and education.
Despite the fact that this appears to be another sort of valiant, heroic story in favour of the police, the police officer just there mentioned the fact that he had a lacklustre approach to his own education. No one can be blamed for his lack of enthusiasm, his poor mental attitude towards it.
At least he doesn't do what people in that position normally do and blame systemic problems, rather than he actually did blame himself. So you've got to give him some sort of credit.
No, he's basically circling with his finger outstretched, and it's basically turned around and come straight back to him,
pointed at himself,
which must be said to be,
Should a person like that inspire these parts of Nottingham with any confidence that crime is going to be tackled well?
No.
And
what's his major claim to fame here? He's trying to stop illegal bikes, Well,
Yeah, he led some sort of anti-robbery group, which was used mopeds and stuff in a string of Highline burglaries.
even though I've seen like electric bikes and scooters that are they provided by the council?
Yeah, the council funded it in lieu with some other group, and they're actually really good value for money. And a lot of people riding them very irresponsibly, but for the most part, they actually are quite useful to commuters and people going to work and things.
He's trying to stop the equivalent of that from happening when lockdown has bred all sorts of terrible things like rapes that are going unreported.
Yeah. So are
domestic
you
violence.
saying that focusing on the e-scooter menace is not?
It's hardly the most pressing issue right now.
When domestic violence is going up, alcoholism's going up, all sorts of yeah.
So it just seems as though his focus is completely in the wrong area, though his heart might be, but that doesn't really make up for the.
Did you ever watch
education.
the show Heartbeat?
Does he do that? Or
No, did you ever watch it?
well, not intently when I was about 6.
Yeah, there was a copper on it called Jeffrey, and he was very incompetent, but his heart was in the right place, which is nice in a drama because he's a nice guy, but doesn't actually help effective policing.
Yeah, it's all too touchy-feely.
So this is a paid-for financial advisors questionnaire to the readers by Brian Mole, Independent Financial Advisors in Burton-upon-Trent, a place where we frequent quite regularly.
It's worth just mentioning that he's offering advice, but we've not heard of him at all.
No. He's got a proper URL. You can email support@brianmole.co.uk or his website, brianmole.co.uk. So I'm just going to read the little introduction. Feel free to interrupt at any time during any of this with your opinions on what he's saying, because Chris, viewers may not know that you're quite, and listeners may not know that you're quite a financial sort of guy. You finance stuff.
I've done an A-level in economics, so we'll see how this goes.
You've kept it up, though. You've kept it up.
I've got a healthy interest in sort of financial issues. Yeah.
And didn't you also work you've worked as sales advisors and things, assisting people lower down than you in companies and stuff. So you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And been quite successful at it. So
reasonably so. Yeah.
Yeah. So here we go. Here at Brian Mole IFA, we want everyone to look after their money. And when considering options to invest wisely, it is easy to make mistakes when investing your money. Everyone works hard to achieve financial growth and stability in their life, so look after your existing wealth.
Right, so I'm going to stop you right there, because in the introductory section there, all he has really said is the obvious. People don't need to be told this stuff.
The grass is green and the sky is blue.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
are ways I can help you.
Money comes in coins and notes,
So the first paragraph, the first bullet point, having too much in cash.
Right, well that's not true, is it? That's not an issue.
No.
It's having too much cash. Surely, if you were wanting to invest it, you would need cash to invest.
Yeah.
And you would need a sizable surplus so that your current expenditures, your regular outgoings, let's say,
Right.
are not affected by whatever investment you perhaps make.
Right. Okay. So should I read on with that one or move to the next one?
No, yeah, carry on.
With saving rates so low.
Right, well, that's a lie.
Every sentence is wrong.
That is a lie. The
Right.
savings ratio, I think, is at the highest level since the Napoleonic Wars. It's about the highest level in 200 years.
Which, ironically, later on in the paper, apparently today's the day that was it the British got to Paris in their fight against Napoleon. So that's interesting. So savings rates are the highest.
They're about 15% the last time I looked, and they've not on modern comparable records been that high.
Aren't interest rates really low though? So
yeah, but it's mostly because of the furlough and the fact that
what's the difference between savings rates and interest rates?
Savings rates are a proportion of the total money that is currently saved in banks.
Right.
Interest rates are essentially
the money you earn back from putting monies into.
Well,
savings.
it's a regulator on the price of money.
Yeah.
Is the best way because money is a commodity.
Yeah.
And it's tradable. So in times where the interest rate is low, evidently the demand for cash is low and things like that,
right.
which of course it is.
Right, okay, so shall I go to the next one?
Yeah.
Not spreading your risk. One of the oldest and best ways...
Well, hold on a moment, because surely you would definitely want to spread your risk across a number of investments.
Instead of putting in a huge amounts of money into one thing that could
that could easily go bust.
Because all investments are a risk, technically, so...
Yeah.
But anyway, let's just see if he's got any legitimacy in this one. One of the oldest and best ways to lose money from investing is by having a heavily concentrated portfolio.
So he's actually just contradicted himself there, hasn't he? Because he's essentially saying that...
He said it was heavily concentrated, so I suppose he isn't really.
No, but he's contradicted the title of that particular section.
Why? But if he's saying it's
don't what is it? Don't take too much of a risk.
Yeah, but heavily concentrated would suggest your investments are in fewer places with more money. So he's not really contradicting himself.
I don't know. Doesn't strike me as right.
In good times, having a highly focused portfolio can bring bumper returns, especially during one of the market's periodic bubbles.
Yeah, that's really responsible advice, isn't it?
Put loads of your money into bubbles?
When the economy's good and when there's bubbles growing in commodities and things like that, that's the time to invest, because that sort of thing certainly didn't happen between 2004 and 2008 with the housing market, did it?
No, or the dot-com bubble
one.
And then there was the one in Japan in the mid-90s as well.
Yeah, which they've only just recovered from.
Yeah. So that's bad advice. That's bad. I'm not an economics person at all. You're not going to see that's bad advice. That when bubbles burst, so this is what we're getting onto. We're just saying all the bubbles burst. But when bubbles burst, it's far better to have a well-diversified portfolio. So he's saying go for maximum risk during a bubble, which will burst, and then when you've lost all your money, put all your very few remaining investments into loads and loads of different investments.
But of course,
into startups that might not even get anywhere because there's no money left and no one's spending anything.
But of course, if everybody in the economy was to take his advice all at the same time, the bubble would burst even before they got the money out. Yeah. So they'd all be dragged down on the same sinking ship.
Yeah. That's pretty...
They wouldn't have the money to invest or diversify their portfolios.
Obviously, we have free speech in this country, and it's a great thing. But the thing is, in terms of what's allowed to be put in a newspaper, in terms of the editorial decisions that are made, which is not about free speech, it's just the editorial decisions that are made, is having dangerous financial advice like this, which I presumably he's paid to put in the paper because it's got his logo on everything, so he's paid to have it in the paper. Is this safe?
Well, hold on a moment, because
you do get a lot of scam artists and people that don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. Is that safe to have?
Let's just look at the sort of thematic elements of this newspaper. We've got pro-police stories. We've got an adherence to authoritarian ideology. We've got irresponsible money management. It wouldn't surprise me if the controller of this newspaper is a Stalinist.
Well, this newspaper has been in recession in terms of circulation and definitely thickness and quality content for going on 10 years.
It may as well have the Morning Star written on it.
Well, okay, so this is the next one. So this is what I don't get, because after now you've explained the previous one about him saying not spreading your risk and putting loads of your money into very small amounts of investments, right? He then says one thing you shouldn't do is piling it all in at once.
So he's contradicted himself again.
3 times. Another fundamental mistake to make is that another fundamental mistake that investors make is to mess up the timing of their ISA investments. Instead of drip feeding money over a period of time, millions of us throw lump sums in on a single day, often just at the end of the tax year looms. So spelling error there as well. The big problem with piling it all in at the end of March or April is that you can easily become a victim of one of the stock market's seasonal effects. It is well known that phenomenon...
Which he's saying that you ought to ride.
Yeah.
In your other investments.
This is ridiculous. Should we even go on?
Yeah.
Okay. It is well known phenomenon that...
This has to be exposed.
It does, yeah.
It really does.
It's a journalistic duty here. It is a well-known phenomenon that the London stock market often rises in late March and early April as it is pushed up by a flood of cash flowing into ISAs as the tax year ends. A far less risky approach is to spread out investing in your ISA throughout the year and take advantage of market weakness to top up your holdings. Also, to automate the entire process, why not divide your ISA allowance into 12 chunks and then invest monthly? I'm pretty sure there's minimum rates you can pay ISAs in at. But I've got to sound that bit.
He's just stating the obvious again. He's just gone back right to the beginning.
Right.
And he's saying what we all know to be true.
Well, this one's about de-weeding, which he's put in quotation marks, not de-weeding.
That must be a term that he has invented, because I've certainly not heard of that.
Okay, yeah. Poor performing funds can hold back how well your portfolio does and can cancel out the good work done by making the right choices. So sure...
By right choices, he means, of course, none of his choices.
Yeah. I've got stomach cramp. I find it hard to laugh today. Not properly, anyway. So make sure you regularly review what is doing well and what is not, then act.
That's just common sense.
Yeah. If you're going to be involved in financial markets, you
don't obviously keep your investments all in the same place all at once. You know?
No. Okay.
Or as this phrase goes, you can't have all of your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. So not watching those fees, and it's not just the performance of your investments you need to regularly review. Fees can seriously erode your returns over the years, so it's important you ensure that you are not being ripped off, much like reading this, or listening to this. Whether it is a specific. You don't put whether it a. It would be grammatically correct if you just put whether a specific fund or a share, but you put whether it, so it's wrong. So whether it a specific fund or your share dealing service, keep a close eye on those. This must only be about 1,000 words long, and he's made 2 grammatical errors already. Anyway,
and he's made 2 or 3 contradictory points.
Yes, many. So whether it's a specific fund or a share dealing service, keep a close eye on those fees and not be afraid to move if needed. Shall we move on?
Is there anything else?
Yeah, there's more. Ignoring the rest of the world, which is probably a bad thing to do generally.
That is the most irresponsible advice generally, not just in relation to money. But how could...
No, I think he's saying don't ignore the rest of the world. He's not saying ignore it. It's just the way he's titled some of them are a bit like...
Yeah, but that's just stupid anyway, because you wouldn't do that.
Although the UK has the world's 6th largest economy, even after Brexit, I've just added that bit in. We Brits account for only 2.2% of world output, according to the data from the International Monetary Fund. Does that mean most of our economy is actually just debt then? Probably.
Yeah. We are obviously leaders in financial services, and a large part of that is debt.
So it's not that good then.
And actually, I thought our output was close to 1%, not 2%.
But this is...
Unless we've improved.
This is Brian Mole's advice and statistics, don't forget, so... It wouldn't be...
I think the major conclusion...
It wouldn't be out of character for him to be 1.2% off.
The major conclusion from this is that Brian Mole is literally a mole. He lives up to his name.
I noticed that when we was going over this before we started recording, and it is an interesting name.
He's someone who stays underground, clawing away at reality.
We should put a picture of him up on the episode. We'll try and see if he's got a picture on his website. We'll go on the website afterwards.
Well, he's barely got a decent name to himself, you know.
No.
I doubt he'd have a picture.
Are we coming to the end yet? No, we've got quite a few stories
There's a few left, yeah. Might have to split this.
Homes blighted by dust, noise and smells from nearby industrial estate. Health concerns have been raised over horrific smells and thick brown oozes of dust which descends on homes from a nearby industrial estate.
That is the most disgusting introduction to an article I think I've ever heard.
Brown oozing dust. I think it's from a former quarry. People living in Trowell as well as Stapleford and Hallam Fields in Derbyshire. So it's Nottingham Post, but it's Derbyshire. Anyway, mate, I wonder if the Derbyshire Telegraph got this scoop. So people have been blighted by smells which make your eyes water from dust and pollution since 1994.
And they've only just realised it's a problem.
Yeah. However, with the pandemic forcing more people to work and stay at home, they say prevalent issues have led to them sending more than 100 complaints to the Environment Agency. The smells and pollution, they claim, come from the Quarry Hill Industrial Estate, and pictures have been sent to the Environment Agency in a bid to prove it.
Let's just have a look at that picture briefly, because it's a very sort of pixelated, grainy shot.
It's been zoomed in. There's some tops of houses at the bottom.
And what is a chimney with white smoke coming out of it, which suggests an oxidised reaction.
Yeah.
And it's a rather bland-looking photo. I mean,
it is in Amber Valley, and it's a pretty bland part of the world.
Yeah, but look at the colour saturation in it as well. It's really sort of pale and wishy-washy.
But it is really bright because we're staring at the sun with these glasses on, sunglasses on. I actually thought it looked quite colourful, but there we go. animals the likely source of COVID-19. A joint World Health Organization China study, which if it's a joint world, if anything's joint with China, it means it's China.
Corrupt.
Yeah, corrupt, and it's Chinese influenced. On a study of COVID-19 since transmission of the virus from bats to humans through another animal is the most likely scenario for its emergence.
Which would mean that it's a zootropic virus.
And there's a draft copy of the study's findings obtained by the Associated Press, but... Okay, so here we go. The report's release has been repeatedly delayed, raising questions about whether the Chinese side was trying to skew the conclusions and prevent blame for the pandemic. Well, of course they're skewing it. I mean, this is...
It's pretty implausible to suggest that bats caused COVID-19 in the first place.
Yeah, but the thing is, that wasn't even the first animal that they... There's a big B again. No, that wasn't even the first animal that they blamed. They blamed that pandolin thing.
Yeah,
do you remember that?
I don't know.
Do you remember that armadillo-looking thing that they have in China that they use in wet markets?
I've no idea.
But they've passed... But before that, there was another animal. They've just passed it. So it's obviously lies.
Yeah.
And then the same thing, but the one thing that's consistent is that there's a very poorly maintained virology lab in Wuhan. So which one's more likely?
Well,
there you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a question that viewers can answer for themselves.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be very difficult to do it. Oh yes, canal back in business as ship is freed. Salvage teams set free the colossal container ship that has halted global trade to the Suez Canal.
Well, just before we get into the very brief column of text, the thing that's annoyed me about this is how on the side of the ship it says Evergreen.
In big letters.
Very big white letters, you can hardly miss it. And yet every time it's been in the news, it's been referred to as Evergiven.
Which is the name of the actual ship.
Which is the name of the ship.
Which is very small on the port of the ship, as you can see on the picture.
Yeah.
You know, I found out that apparently because of this, when they had to reroute trade from China and places like that, it took an extra 3 weeks on the voyages to get to Rotterdam. So I knew the Suez Canal was very important to global trade, but I didn't realise I narrowed this section of the Suez Canal because it is really narrow.
Yeah.
I mean, there's sections of the River Trent that are wider than this. Yeah. It's quite amazing.
But that's obviously one of the most important trade routes.
Yeah.
For the whole of Europe.
What's the one in north of Mexico called? With there's that really little gap. There's another canal, so you can get from the Atlantic to the Pacific, which that was built relatively recently compared to Suez.
Yeah.
But yes,
if something is now going to be rerouted, that's going to add on 4,000 nautical miles to the journey.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, two ministers removed amid sex scandals.
So we're back to the paedophiles again.
Yep. Australia's leader reassigned some key members of his cabinet and launched a new task force as he tries to address a series of sexual misconduct scandals that have rocked his government. The country's Prime Minister Scott Morrison above removed embattled ministers Christian Porter and Linda Reynolds from their high-profile roles. Mr Porter, who was Attorney General, had earlier taken mental, and I'm putting big air quotes on that, taken mental health leave, just like Meghan Markle's mental health leave, after revealing he was a person accused of raping a 16-year-old girl when he was 33. No, 33 years ago, sorry. His accuser has since died and police are not pursuing any charges. Why?
I mean, what can you say about this? I mean, these sorts of stories they're so late coming out that you can't really do anything about them at this point.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a massive shame for the victims.
Yeah.
And the people who've been affected by it. But it's just like, you need to be able to feel comfortable with coming forward with these sorts of things sooner on. Yeah.
Yeah. Because now no justice really can be served.
Yeah, and they're not two people that I'm best familiar with. I have a particular interest in Australian politics.
But you don't know the Attorney General?
I haven't come across these names, to be honest. They're not that important. I mean, obviously the Attorney General position is an important position, but I can't say that he's been a particularly memorable
What is the sexual age of consent in Australia?
I think it's the same as here.
Britain?
I think, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's either 16 or 17 or something.
So we're going to move on to the quotes of the day on this day. Oh, you want to talk about actually these letters to the editor?
Yeah. Well, just that one actually, yeah.
Okay, so Figures don't add up for road closure. Where does Mrs. Roskins get his figures from? Mr. Roskins is someone who works at Nottingham City Council. Get his figures from with his absurd claims about many accidents and serious speeding on the embankment. There are several websites worth looking at. www.crashmap.co.uk. The website shows flags of reported incidents over 21 years. 0 fatal accidents on the embankment. This is true. There was also a picture about in this article saying that Nottingham people were compliant with lockdown stuff, and they posted a picture of the embankment. The fact is that the Nottingham City Council have put bollards on it so you can't drive down it, even though it's a perfectly safe road, really wide. You can park on both sides and go walking and fishing and have a nice time and go to the local pubs at normal times. And they want to close it. They're off their heads.
To be honest, I mean, the council has just literally had their arses handed to them by someone with no particular research skill. It's just that they've looked at the right places for the figures.
Yeah.
And have come out with a truer story of a truer version of events, I suppose, that is more evidence-based than the council have.
And there were actually intense potholes on that road, which they refused to fill. So maybe that's why they just closed the road instead of filling the potholes. I mean, this council is a disgrace. So this is Pam Pierce's column: a taste of simple pleasures.
Anyone with the name of Pam is going to be trouble.
Yeah. What does the name evoke to you?
Whingy bitchiness and
greyness.
Yeah, and just sort
Dreariness.
of festering old age and
foxholes.
Yeah, and
sunflower seeds.
Keeping up appearances on the television.
Diet, Sprite, just boring stuff.
Yeah.
Relaxing
choirs.
Yeah. That was a good one. That was the best one. Relaxing post-lockdown is not going to be easy. I've been experiencing a tremendous feeling of release as we come out of lockdown. The trouble is, I'm unsure what to make of my newfound freedom as I emerge stumbling into the sunshine.
Right, so the way that I interpreted that just before we started recording this was that she has essentially experienced her first orgasm in about 60 years.
Yeah. Does it not annoy people that don't know what the hell to do with this so-called freedom? Do you know what annoys me more than face masks and more than social distancing? It's people that actually refuse to hug members of their own family, even when they could just do it and get away with it. No one's policing that. Yeah. And they actually refuse to hug, like this. I met somebody who refused to hug their son after she didn't see him for like 7 months. What are you doing? Why are you letting the government interfere in that?
You've got to sort of think about what were these people doing before.
Yeah.
You know, before all this crisis was going on, they must have been exactly the same, or else they wouldn't have been like this now.
Just really funny as in odd people that just soak up anything they're told.
But they're so non-existent.
I know, as people. As
I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it.
I know.
They've got no personality. They've got no ambition. The fact that they're one of 8 billion people and they're just wasting their lives.
Yeah, I know. She looks like she does.
She's got a very sort of column-shaped nose.
Yeah, you notice that her laugh lines are completely vertical, whereas most people they're curved, which obviously suggests that she doesn't laugh much.
She looks very wooden.
And frown, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to go on to star signs now, which I think is one of the last features we've got. If I can actually find them. Oh no.
It wasn't back there, was it?
No. Was it? Where
is it on the letters page?
No. That was stuff about the SNP. So there's this one about a prison that's installed this really successful X-ray machine. It's been smuggled in. To stop items being smuggled into HMP Lowdham Grange, which I think is the one near Gotham. Grantham. But as far as I remember, a prisoner escaped there last week, and he was actually let out formally through the process in which you actually let out a prisoner who's due to be released, and he was not the right prisoner, and they let him out.
Did he disguise himself as a tin of baked beans?
No, he didn't. He didn't even put on a disguise. They just systemically got the wrong person, and he was let free, and he's still out now on the loose. And this is apparently this perfect X-ray machine that's stopping all this.
So the X-ray machine has essentially done a great deal of damage to the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
By.
This is a cover story or something. I think I'm not sure. I'm still not sure if this was the actual. We're going to do this health and lifestyle bit. Should we just go to the star signs?
Just do the headlines for that, I think.
So, spring clean your mental health. get your sleep back on track.
Well, that'd be a hell of a lot easier if lockdown didn't exist.
Yeah, it would be a lot easier. Reduce anxiety in people.
Yeah.
And the government propaganda campaigns that make people even more anxious. Curb your drinking. It's been one of the best things to do to deal with it, really, even though that's not necessarily a healthy way of doing it, but it has let the mind escape a little bit, I suppose, from the...
But also that the virus itself is also susceptible to alcohol.
What do you mean?
The virus has been shown to be susceptible to alcohol. In other words, alcohol destroys it, or at least attempts to
Well, alcohol
destroy
is quite good at that as a thing, isn't it? Step up the exercise. I've been doing that, but I've not been doing it because of lockdown. I've just wanted to lose weight.
Yeah. I hardly...
There is a huge bee right behind me. That is a big bee.
I hardly recognise Damien.
Have you seen the size of that bee?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Where's it gone?
It's just in the tree.
Where? Okay. Get back in touch with nature. I'm really nervous because it's right behind me on that bush and I can't see it when I'm talking.
I think you need to get back in touch with nature, considering how you don't like
I've
bees.
always been scared of insects.
It's just everything. Like, we're sat in a garden surrounded by insects.
But not, it's gone, right? Sorry, yeah.
We're surrounded by insects. It's not possible for you to get away from them unless you go indoors.
I know. This is what I'm like in summer. I hate it. I hate walking home from work as well when it's hot and there's insects.
It's not that bad. I mean,
no,
it's probably because you don't have a jacket on.
No, it's nothing like that. It's an irrational fear I've had as a child. Since I was a child. It's not, I could be wearing a bubble suit and I'd still be... Anyway,
Okay.
Cut back on the snacks.
Pretty obvious.
Yeah, that's just not good for you.
But the next one...
Be kind. Be kind, Chris.
Or be kind as in that bee over there.
Yes, yeah. I do try and respect bees because I saw the film Bee Movie and I know that they're very important to the ecosystem, but I can't help being scared of them.
I don't like the phrase "be kind," and it's sort of very similar. It's very similar to another phrase that I don't like, which is "stay safe."
Yeah.
Which has entered the lexicon as of last year thereabouts.
Yeah.
As a way of consoling people as they go through this crisis, which isn't really a crisis. But to be honest, traditionally we say take care.
Yeah.
Because because there's an implied element of risk in everything that you do.
Yeah.
To say stay safe
is to demand that someone reduces all risk in their life, which is not what
prevents all risk. Yeah. That's it.
So it's actually quite a creepy phrase. Actually, now you've unpacked it quite interestingly.
Yeah.
There's a lot worse undertones, and it sounds vacuous on superficially, but when you start to peel it back anyway, it's even worse.
But it sounds very sort of... You have to be of a certain mentality to be sucked in by those sorts of things.
And I'm disappointed in more people apparently are.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's infuriating.
Plant some seeds.
Oh yeah, plant some seeds. Take a break from social media. Keep the romance alive. Which is hard to do when you're physically not allowed to go to your girlfriend's house if she lives at another address.
Yeah.
Or boyfriend's house. It's pretty... a load of rubbish. Oh yeah, we've got way more stories than I thought we had. This is the last one, I think, and then we've just got the star signs, so we can do it now. So I'm not going to read the headline because it just says it could be you. Right, this is a story of Gaynor Faye, who played what's her name in Coronation Street and Megan in Emmerdale, is doing a drama with Neil Morrissey and Neil Morrissey's own daughter, and it was written by Gaynor Faye's mother. And it's a drama focusing around a lottery syndicate in a newsagent lot license sort of place.
The most
which
unappealing.
I thought was the most Partridge thing. You know when he does those voice memos with those stupid-eyed show out. That's the most
unappealing synopsis for a drama ever.
The information on Neil Morrissey that you were discussing earlier.
Yeah, well, Neil Morrissey, I mean, this isn't the first time that he's stooped so low in the television business in order to make a quick buck, I suppose. Back in about 2007, I think, when his chain of pubs were facing financial difficulty and he was facing bankruptcy, he took out a job on Waterloo Road. Yeah. And he's basically said, the only reason why I did that is to get myself out of the hole I dug, with the businesses and things like that. And he regrets being part of it. So, I mean, he used to do home base adverts.
I've heard him do a advert for Checker Trade on Talk Radio. He's even sung to those sort of depths.
He's literally everywhere. And by the way, that looks like a fairly old photo of him because he's now got completely grey hair.
Yeah, he looks...
And it's not that short.
No, and it's receded as well. I mean, never.
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny is he's sort of become more the character he was in Men Behaving Badly, where he could never get anything off the ground or anything successful going, and he was
completely childish.
And he worked at a market record shop, which was obviously on the downturn because it was in the 90s and the vinyl was dying.
Yeah.
So he's actually becoming more and more like what was his name on Men Behaving Badly?
Neil.
That was Neil.
No, that's his name.
Neil. What was his name?
Tony.
That was
Tony.
Tony, yeah, and he had a mullet in the first series, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, Gain of Faye's alright, quite hot, but I just don't see that being that interesting.
It's just
apparently it's also I can't remember what Gain of Faye was saying this morning on Lorraine, but I think she was saying that they filmed it as if it's not in lockdown, which is a good thing. But it said apparently they found it hard to do it without, because they have to adhere to the restrictions still when they film. But anyway, so
well, aren't they all doing that pretty much?
Yeah. Well,
So-
no. We talked about this. I don't know. So we did talk about this. I think in last summer was how when it was still quite a relatively new thing. Some shows were fully integrating coronavirus into their plots.
Oh, yeah.
Like The Rovers Return had an outside ear and a one-way system, but then Doctors was trying to film it at weird angles.
Yeah.
To try and make it look like it wasn't happening, because at that point no one knew how long it was going to go on for, and now they've all had to sort of address the fact that it's a real thing, because it's so. Stars and puzzles. I'm going to read you some star signs. You've got, I guess, if it's yours. But what you usually try and do at this point is look at where my eyes are gazing.
Yeah.
To see if I'm actually reading the one, because you're Aries and that's always at the top. So if my eyes are down there, it's not yours. So I'll have to do it like this, but it might cover up the audio. You're seriously considering new...
The answer's no.
Yeah, because you've already read it, haven't you?
No, I haven't. I just know where your eyes are.
Yeah, even though the paper's covering my face. So let's just read yours and see if there's any applicability to it. You're trying to decide what needs to be done to overcome a business issue. Front and centre of your mind is a project that is close to a deadline. A lot of information you need will be found online, but some will be less accessible. This is inevitably going to slow you down. That's the least sort of astrological thing I've ever heard.
I suppose...
It's just all digital business stuff. What's that got to do with the stars?
Well, there is kind of a relevance to that, because I am standing in the local elections, which obviously has a deadline.
Yeah.
And a lot of the information I've found for conducting the campaign and the guidance from the Electoral Commission is online.
But in that regard, then Gemini speaks more to you, because it says there's slack in the system and you will be expected to tighten controls. Promises aren't being delivered, but you absolutely believe there are ways to achieve joint aims. That sounds much more applicable to your...
Is Matt Hancock a Gemini?
He could be. We'd have to check that out. We can't check it out right now. Is he?
I've no idea.
We'll find out. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this week, isn't it? Oh, yeah, I've got to do mine. Arguments seem to be... Oh, and I said before this that this has no bearing on anything that's happening in my life at the moment, which is amazing, because they're all supposed to appeal to... Basically, all of these are supposed to appeal to anybody.
From Russell Grant.
Yeah, from Russell Grant. He seems to sell these to every paper. He's in loads of them, he's even in the Nationals. Arguments seem to be getting you nowhere. There is clarity offered in a sense that structures have already been put in place, and these aren't going to be changed. Eventually, things will go ahead as originally planned. There will always be people who attempt to make waves. Right. So
I think we should wave goodbye to this newspaper.
And wave goodbye to Tabloid Tuesday for another week.
All right.